Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ivy Law's weekly live YouTube. This is Attorney Wilberforce Agyekum. I wanted to talk briefly about the spousal green card interview. This is the interview after you've been married to either a lawful permanent resident or U.S. citizen, and you must appear before the USCIS for your spousal interview. That would be both you and your spouse have to appear at that particular interview. I recently appeared on behalf of a client with a client for their interview, or husband and wife. And there are a lot of things that you should expect at this interview. First, know that the questions will be thorough. The questions will encompass all aspects of your life, and you are expected to know each other like a husband and wife, a spouse, partners who are married should know each other. Okay. So that means you'll be asked detailed questions about your living, where you live, your favorite things, your favorite color, where you work, those type of things. Where you met, how you met, the circumstances surrounding how you became a husband and wife, or spouses, and expect basically to know just about everything that you two have together, experiences together, your travels together, your bills, your living expenses, your if you have a mortgage, your insurances, your banking, your finances. All these things, either they are combined, and if they're not, be prepared to explain basically, for the most part, why not. Again, this is basically for the officer to determine that your marriage, your marriage is indeed a bona fide marriage, and it is not entered into for the purposes of defrauding, or for just the purposes of gaining some kind of immigration benefit. And in this case, it would be your green card. Okay. So, for example, a question that was asked recently of my clients, um, the husband, who is the beneficiary, and the petitioner is the wife. And again, be mindful that you may be split up, or your interviews may be staggered, in that you're not in the same room at the same time with the officer. And this is where it gets very tricky. And again, if your marriage is bona fide, then you have nothing to worry about. And even if it is, the questions are so detailed that it's possible that you may not know everything, but that's okay. However, the issue comes in basically some of the things that should be, factually known, or at least understood between you both, as to how things happen and how your lives are play out together. Okay. One thing that my clients were asked about definitely was how they met, and how the circumstances of the proposal, and how they went from meeting and dating to marriage, and to be a couple, a husband and wife, in a bona fide marriage. So imagine if you are split up and you are asked that question, you both are asked that question. If one says you met at the restaurant and the other says, well, we met at the train station, that may be a problem. One example, and you may find this interesting. My clients, one was asked how she gets to work. The wife, how she gets to work, who is a U.S. citizen. And she indicated that she doesn't drive, so she either takes ride sharing to work, or um, or her husband drops her off at work. Now, subsequently, when the beneficiary husband was interviewed and the same question was asked, he indicated that his spouse, his wife, does not drive, and so she takes public transportation, the bus, to work, but he never takes her to work. He has never taken her to work himself. Here, the petitioner said to the officer that she takes rideshare, Lyft, or Uber to work, or sometimes her husband drives her to work. The subsequent interview, the husband says, "No, my wife." He didn't know what she had said, but I'm listening to the interview of both, and I'm listening, and he says she takes the bus. I have never, and I don't take her to work. Two different things. Two very different things. And that alone may not cost him the green card, but it is certainly a discrepancy that may lead to delays, and the officer will have to basically look into that, as they say. Things such as if you met and you both have children before you met, you're expected to know your stepchildren's names and their birthdays. Stepchildren's names and birthdays. Okay, those are typically asked. You are expected, for the most part, to know your parents' names. You don't, and I've seen them asked about ages. Some clients will be like, "Well, tell me, well, her parent is deceased, or her mom or dad is deceased, or both parents are deceased." Well, deceased doesn't mean you should not know their names, at least. Okay, you may not need to know their birthdays, but you want to come prepared with at least their names. You definitely. I was in another interview where the officer inquired about the the beneficiary's husband's middle name. Middle name. It's a gentleman from Nigeria, and his middle name it's not easy. His full name was not easy, but the middle name was not one that was commonly known or used. And so the wife, the U.S. citizen wife, didn't know the middle name of her husband. Again, something like that creates a situation for the officer where it, at a minimum, will delay processing of the petition and the application to adjust status. All that will be delayed. So your assignment basically is to make sure you know each other. You know each other. You know the things you're supposed to know about each other. Because knowing each other and combining a life together is basically what illustrates a bona fide marriage. If you haven't done those things, again, your marriage will be called into question. Note that the officer is trained and is there. There's a reason why you go to an interview, an in-person interview. The officer already has your documents, including your marriage certificate, a valid one, I presume. They have all the documents they need to have on paper to see that on paper you are married. If that's all it took, we're done. Everything is good. But there's that interview, and that interview, the officer who you will be speaking with, or who will be interviewing you and your spouse, is trained basically to assess and spot and ascertain what is known as sham marriages. In other words, marriages that are not real, that are fake, that are basically contracts between two people for the benefit of one of them acquiring immigration benefits such as a green card. That is the job of that officer. Okay? So I understand that. They already, you're there because you have to prove to the officer's satisfaction that your marriage is real. And that requires really knowing each other. I mean, the officer in the most recent interview just a few days ago that I attended, um, asked about the color of the carpet, of the bedroom carpet, asked about where the garbage can is located in the kitchen, asked about the number of pillows on the bed and who has how many. The officer asked about what they had for breakfast. The officer asked about what time his wife went to sleep and what time she went to work the day before and what time she came home. The officer asked about what food they ate that morning before they came to the interview. The officer asked about each other's employment, what they do, how much they earn. The officer asked the clients about their monies, where they deposit their monies. How about their tax filings? What happens to those? Are they jointly filed? And where does refunds go? Do they have a joint account? And are there activities within that joint account? All these are questions that you are likely to face. And you're expected to know your spouse. Now, don't panic. So long as you are in a marriage where you do know each other and everything about your marriage is bona fide, you will be just fine. You do want to, however, prepare and study your factual information about each other. Certainly, not all of us remember dates exactly, but you do want to, nowadays we set reminders for everything on our smartphone and our tablets and our calendars, so we don't have many things memorized. Some of us even set reminders for birthdays for our children, our spouses, parents, you name it. So if you're that type of person who has all these things that that you don't memorize, but you have written down or you have saved in your smartphones and tablets or what have you, you want to review those things and be able to answer them in front of the officer, because obviously you're not going to be able to refer to any notes. Okay. So significant in the spousal interview is basically one of the, I think, the area where it is covered the most by almost every one of these that I have attended with clients, is that the officer is going to be very thorough regarding how the process, the timing regarding how you met and how you became married, and then they will want to address your life together since you've been married. So that's the main breakdown. It's your time before you got married, how it happened. Okay? How it happened, how you got engaged, where and when did that happen, who proposed and how did they propose, were rings exchanged. These are questions that most people who are married would know how the marriage came to be, that point in time where the proposal occurred and the acceptance and how it happened, and then how the ceremony occurred and whether or not there was a reception after the ceremony, and where the pictures are for the ceremony, because they're gonna want to know. It'd be nice if you have pictures for the ceremony, pictures for your reception. If you went on a honeymoon, pictures, pictures, pictures. Make sure you can show the life, the excitement, the love, and the bona fide of your marriage. And it's usually told documentary, but it's also told orally, and you are there to express that part to the officer, to the officer's satisfaction. Both of you, both of you. So it's not an interview you're taken lightly. You don't take this interview lightly. And once you're done and it goes well, and the officer is satisfied that indeed your marriage is bona fide and it's not a sham marriage, it is a happy time, because you will indeed be allowed and granted a green card. And then you'll be allowed to continue to build a life together with your spouse here in the United States and build your family. However, if for some reason the officer is not satisfied with your performance in the interview, then obviously you have an issue. And then there will be a delay in the process, and the officer will have to look into certain things, and if necessary, sent you what is called a request for evidence or notice of intent to deny. This is when you have to then come back and prove, in a sense, your marriage to the officer's satisfaction. So whatever the officer found deficient in your filing or at your interview, they will give you an opportunity to at least remedy or repair whatever it is that they had an issue with respect to your marriage. Okay, and this that point becomes somewhat of an adversarial process, and then most people at that point realizes it's time to have counsel or an attorney represent you at that point in order to make sure it doesn't go beyond that initial request for evidence stage. And because after that, then you're talking about removal. If the officer is still not satisfied, you will likely be sent to the immigration court for removal process. And at that point, it becomes a bit more difficult. Not impossible, but difficult. But you have to then make your case to the immigration judge. But you want to do everything you can to avoid having to go through all that process, because it is stressful and it is expensive, and it can be very trying on you and your relationship and everything else. So all I would say is make sure you understand what to expect for your spousal interview, that you prepare. Don't take it lightly. Don't assume that you will remember everything, including dates, birth dates of children, you know, those type of things, your habits, your tendencies, things you do together, things you like to do for each other, and things travels you've done together, and all those type of things. Times with your family, friends together. Document things that show your marriage and how bona fide it is. And again, the officer is there to make sure that that's exactly what your marriage is, a bona fide one. Okay, so if you are in need of assistance with this type of preparation, or if you haven't applied and you need assistance with a petition and application process, you can call us at Ivy Law Office. And if you need assistance with interview preparation and representation, also reach out to us at Ivy Law Office. Okay, the best way to reach us, basically go to our website, ivylawoffice.com. All our contact information is there. You can also contact us via email, you name it. So we're here to help you. Again, reach out to us, okay? Even if you don't reach out to us, make sure you prepare for your interview, because you will not want to have that final step be the one that kind of stops things in its tracks. Okay? All right. But otherwise, good luck, and hopefully you get that green card and you are allowed to remain in the United States to build a life legally here. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.